Hi friends, hope you are all doing fine today. And today I am going to discuss about how to prepare for foreign travel. And essentially, if you are a graduate student, a postdoc, even a UG student, sooner or later you may have to visit abroad for some conferences or maybe for a longer term position. So let's start this topic. So the first thing you need to get is a passport, and essentially the best time to get a passport is when you are in high school, you have an address at your home, and so the process is very simple. The next best time is when you are in college. Essentially, you have a dorm or a hostel where you are staying in, and so you can give this location for getting your passport. Now, in several countries, they have something known as a police verification or verification of your records for the passport, and this is simplest when you are very young. This is simplest when you are staying at home with your parents or when you are staying at dorms, so keep that in mind. Now, some countries give you a choice between getting a passport card, which can take you to nearby countries, and getting a passport, which can take you to all the different countries around the world. So I would always recommend get a regular passport. Typically passports are valid for 5 years, so you have a long time to use it. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that most visas or passports are valid as long as you are within 6 months to your expiry date. So take a look at your passport expiry date. If you are 6 months off, get a new passport. In some cases you may get away with 3 months off, but it's better to be safe and make sure that you have a new passport when your passport reaches 6 months to the expiry date. Now, one more thing which I came to learn is that you should have a few pages of your passport blank, and this should not be just one page, because some embassies will actually deny you a visa if you have only one page on your passport which is blank. So in case you are going to travel a lot, some countries give you something known as a jumbo passport or a bigger passport with more pages, so it may be well worth putting time on getting this bigger passport if you are a frequent traveler to conferences around the world, especially to different countries, because each country will stamp a passport page. Now, the next thing you will need is, when you are planning to go to a foreign country, is a visa, and this is required in case of many countries. Some countries permit visa free travel, but in general visa is going to be required. So let us look at some of the documents you would need to get a visa. Now, essentially you will need to fill a form on the web page of the particular consulate or embassy concerned. Now, beside that, you would need to give some financial information such as your bank account, your tax returns over the last few years, and so on. Now, in the case of UG students, they may require you to give the tax returns for your parents. So this is something which is very important, and I actually came to know of some people whose parents actually never filed taxes or filed taxes with very low income because they were businessmen. And then what happened is that the consulate people said, hey, look here, your parents' income is simply too low to support you on a F1 visa. So keep this in mind, that whether you are filing your taxes or your parents are filing in taxes, the income they show should be sufficiently large for you to go to the foreign country in case you do not have your own support. If you have a scholarship, this is not an issue, but if you do not have a scholarship and are self-funding your travel, the tax returns play an important role here. Also, try to get as many sources of government ID proof as you can. For example, driver license or different cards which your country gives out, some kind of national number if it is there, and so on. So all these will strengthen your case for the visa. Now, the third thing you would need is a credit card, and that's very important because very often when you're traveling to a foreign country, you have to book hotels, you have to book air tickets, and so on, and these are always better done on a credit card than on a debit card. And the reason is, if there is some problem with the person you are charging, or in case there is some false transaction taking place, you can always call up the credit card company and report the problem to them. But in the case of debit card, this debit has already taken place from your bank account. The other thing is, when you are using a credit card, you get a loan of a month or so from the credit card company, and so you can sometimes spend some money and then give it back later when you come back and when you file in your forms for reimbursement and so on. So let us look at some aspects about the credit card which I learned the hard way. One of these is that generally you may get a credit card from a national bank, a small bank, but these credit cards are sometimes problematic when you are charging them to some distant foreign country. But if you get a credit card from a relatively large bank or a bank which has international exposure, then it's better to use the credit card. They also have good customer support throughout the world and so on, or they have numbers which you can call from around the world which are manned 24/7. So I had an issue where I had a credit card and I had gone to a conference in Japan, and at the end of this conference, when I was checking out of the hotel, my credit card did not go through, and this was from a national bank. And fortunately, I had one more credit card from a well-known international bank, and this card went through. So this actually saved me from a lot of problem, because this is something which can happen and which is a very embarrassing situation, or it can be a very detrimental situation. You never know what can happen after that. So that's one of the points. Take more than one credit card. Try to get a credit card from a global bank. That will certainly help you. Now, in case you are very nervous about the possibility of a credit card bouncing, you can take some cash, though cash is risky to carry. So you could also take traveler checks. Now, traveler checks are still in vogue. People will accept them, and you can always use these as backup. So these are some things to take in mind, especially if you never have a foreign travel history. So in my case, what had happened is I had not traveled for a long time outside my country, and then I was going to Japan, and when I came back, the credit card company told me that we thought it was a fraudulent transaction, and that's why they blocked the card at that point. So one of the things you could do is you could inform the credit card company that you are going to travel outside the country to a specific country, and then they are going to make sure that your card goes through, because that's very important. Now, the next point is you should always carry important documents in your hand baggage, and this means any degrees, forms such as the I-20, DS-20109, health insurance, etc. You should carry a set of clothes with you which you can use in case your checked baggage is lost. And believe me, airlines are very good at losing checked baggage every now and then, and it may take 1 or 2 days for this baggage to come to you. So especially if you are going to a conference and you have your presentation the next day, you don't want to be in a situation where you essentially have no clothes, or the set of clothes you are wearing when you step out of the airport. So carry a set of clothes which you need to stay in the location. If you are going to present a paper the next day, make sure you carry your suit or tie or whatever you are planning to wear on that next day, and so on. Now, in all these situations, the particularly important document are documents which come with your visa. So many people think if they get a visa, that's the only document they need to show to the officer when they visit the country, but that's not so. For example, I saw a case where a student was coming with F1 visa, and she had put her I-20 in the checked baggage, and then she didn't have it in her hand baggage and so on. So the officer then sent her off to a waiting room. I don't know what happened after that, but the point is that whenever you have a F1 visa, you need to carry the I-20 form. Whenever you have the J1 visa, you need to carry the DS-20109 form. Any of these forms, important documentation, health insurance, the offer letter from the university, and place where you are going to stay, the address, the names and phone number of some friends in that country, your host, his name and phone number, all these should be there with you right in your fingertips so you can use them. So that's very important. Finally, I will tell you that once you go to a foreign country, your phone may not work immediately. You may need to get a new SIM card and so on. But what is there in most places is you can get free Wi-Fi. You can get in the airport, for example, if you are in Frankfurt airport, you can get free Wi-Fi there. And so if you want to use free Wi-Fi, you need to have certain apps on your phone. You need to have WhatsApp, you need to have Messenger, and these apps will help you to contact people who you know. So before you go to any such event, make sure you have these people in your Facebook or you have these people in your WhatsApp so that you can call to them. Now, there are some countries where WhatsApp may not be there or Messenger. In fact, I had that experience in China that when I landed there, none of these things were working. I mean, Google doesn't work, WhatsApp doesn't work, and so on. But fortunately, I had an iPhone, and so I was able to call my family using FaceTime. So, of course, this is very peculiar because in China, you can use FaceTime and you cannot use WhatsApp, you cannot use Messenger, and many of those things. And so, you may need to get a Chinese SIM there to actually use your phone. Again, all those things are expensive and so on. So, there's a particular case in some countries where these apps are themselves not allowed. That's very peculiar. It's not there in Europe or Japan or US or Canada, but it is there in some countries like China. So in those cases, you may want to actually take some type of iPhone there, because for some reason they allow FaceTime because it just lets you talk to people by phone or by video, but it doesn't let you send any messages or links or any such information. So these are certain things you need to consider. So these were some points I had for you today about how to prepare for foreign travel, and it's always good to know these things than to learn these things from experience, because learning these things from experience can be quite deleterious to your personal situation. So I hope this video is useful to you. Stay tuned to my channel. I will see you soon in a new video. See you then.